So I'm going to go back in time. Back when I was in my late 20s and early 30s, I, like many 20 and 30-year-olds, watched Saturday Night Live. My favorite character was Roseanne and she was a character who was on a television show doing the evening news. She'd go off on this long story, and she always got the facts wrong. In reporting the story. The news anchor was Jane Curtin, and at the end, when Roseanne finished the story, Jane would tell her, that you didn't get the story quite right, and so Roseanne Adana would say, well, Jane, it's always something, and so that's the story today. It's always something, and from an investment standpoint, there's always going to be something out there. The boogeyman never leaves town when it comes to something not to worry about. Over the last 3 years, we had COVID. We had a severe recession because of COVID. The world basically shut down. Think about that. We shut down the churches, we shut down schools, we shut down retail stores, we shut down the world. And then we go into 2000, and so we're wearing masks, which I think has been somewhat crazy over the last couple of years. People are still wearing masks. Luckily, it's like 1 out of 150 now. But then we got so Russia invaded Ukraine, and we had a war that might lead to a World War III situation. And then we have banks going out of business, boom, 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 boom. We have out of control inflation. We had gone 30 years with 2% inflation, and all of a sudden we go from 2% inflation to 9% inflation. And Roseanne Adana is probably thinking, yep, there's always something out there. Now we have the Federal Reserve raising interest rates from 0.25 to now we're at 5.25% on the federal funds rate. That's my point. There's never going to be a time that we can go, well, we don't have anything to worry about right now. And in fact, the truth is, if you didn't have anything to worry about, then the market would probably be overpriced. And it's like the story of this. I remember I was watching it the other day with a James Bond movie. I love James Bond movies. And I can't even tell you the name of this one, but there was a Russian technology guy, and at the end of the movie, they were going to blow up the world, and one of his enemies, and he was the bad guy, by the way, Boris someone had shifted the codes, and they weren't able to send nuclear weapons to China and England and all these other places, and he stood up and said, I'm invincible, and all of a sudden he died. He blew up. He turned to an ice crystal and blew up. And I think the market's like that. When we think that we're invincible, that's when we should really worry. When there's, quote, nothing to worry about, that's when we should really be worried. So why do I even bring all this up? The biggest worry that people have today with their investments is running out of money. And yet sometimes our fears become our greatest enemy. We, like the football team, they lost 178 games in a row, and the coach walks in on Friday night and says, boys, we now know the problem. It's us. Sometimes our own fears and our inability to not watch the news causes us so much anxiety that we're in the market when we shouldn't be, and we're out of the market when we shouldn't be. And so one of the ways that we believe that, for me to tell people not to worry about the world, it's not going to happen. I mean, people aren't going to listen to that. People worry. That's our nature. And even though Jesus says, don't worry, what could happen? Could you add one day to your life if you worried? No. What about the birds of the air? They fly around, they sow, they reap, and they're taken care of better than the princes and the kings of the world. What about the flowers? Here today, gone tomorrow. And doesn't God love you even more than that? So why worry of what you will eat or what you will drink? Instead, put your faith in Christ, and He will give you everything that you need. But worry is a part of our being. Worry is who we are. So what, from a practical standpoint today, if there's always something out there to worry about, and if we tend to worry, how can we protect ourselves from ourselves? Cash reserves, an emergency fund, a bucket strategy. Oh, I've heard that before. A bucket strategy is what we use with our clients, is to say, okay, let's take your money, all of your IRA, your retirement money, and let's put a third of it in safe investments so that you can use to provide you income for 8 to 10 years. So then when the market drops 30, 40, 50%, it's not going to affect your income. You're not going to run out of money. And it gives you time for your bucket two, which is basically half stocks and half bonds, conservative growth, to just come back in price. And then the money that's in the third bucket, we're going to invest that money in stocks and some gold for protection. And the money that's in bucket three is money that normally our clients don't need for 15 to 20 years. And let me just ask you something. If you're 65 today, did you worry as much when you were 45 and you were putting money in your 401k? No, because you had 20 years. Retirement's a long ways away. Well, when you're 65, if you've got a third of your money in bonds to provide you income for 8 to 10 years, a third of your money, 50-50, to give you conservative growth, and then if you've got a third of your money in stocks and a little bit of gold spattered in, the money that's in bucket three is money that you don't need for 20 years. And it's like being 45 again. And the other aspect of cash reserves is that if you're going to retire, you should retire with between $50,000 and $100,000 of money in the bank. Money in the bank for a new car, a roof on the house, a new HVAC system, a couple of hip replacements and knee replacements, and maybe 6 or 8 teeth implants over your 30-year retirement. You are going to have things happen in retirement. And I've never really said this on Facebook, but there used to be a guy in Washington, D.C. His name was Cy Sims, and he was a clother. He owned a clothing store, Sims Clothing. And Cy Sims would always say, our best customer is an informed customer. The more you know, the less you worry. And so worry, is it going to change anything? Nope. Worry, is it going to add any to your life? It'll actually cause your hair to turn white or cause your hair to leave town. And it may even affect your health. So be proactive. Have money in reserve. Have cash in reserve. So when the market goes down, not if the market goes down, you have a place to get money when you need it. For retirement, have a bucket strategy where a third of your money is safely invested so that when you can always get that check. You can even put that into a guaranteed form of investment that guarantees you your income for 8 to 10 years. And remember this, there's always going to be something out there that's going to remind you that the markets may not do well. And rarely does it ever come true, but our nature is to worry. As my great television friend Rosanna Dana would say, you know, Jane, there's always something. So with all of that, hopefully the rains will stop. We shouldn't be surprised. We were all praying for rain, and now the rain comes, and now we don't want the rain. So hopefully the skies will open, the sun will come out, life will go on. So hope your week is good, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks to talk to you.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA and SIPC. Cornerstone Wealth Advisor Group is a separate entity from LPL Financial. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. During this segment, we may discuss specific investments. These discussions are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for anyone listening to the show. Please consult a qualified legal, tax, or financial professional prior to investing to determine what is appropriate for you. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal.